Let's go to the phones. Calling from a 207 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam. Thanks for taking my call. This is Colin from Maine.
Hello, Colin.
Let's see. First of all, I wanted to say a couple things. I wanted to thank Jamie for her contributions and insight. I really enjoy her on the show, so thank you, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
And quick shout-out to the Quip toothbrush. I got one for my wife and I for Christmas, and we both love it, so I can buy one. They're
awesome.
Cool.
They are. They're great.
But what I was calling about is Medicaid work requirements. And you had a guest on your show maybe a couple weeks ago now where you were discussing it in an interview. And up in Maine, we have the self-proclaimed Trump before Trump was Trump, Governor LePage.
Right.
And he's pushing hard for Medicaid work requirements. And I am one of those people who would be required to work because I receive Medicaid. Because of my daughter and because I'm unemployed. And in the interview you had, and I can't remember the guy's name who you were interviewing, he brought up the point that these low amount of unemployed people who are on Medicaid are not exactly, loafing around, living life large, and, just soaking up the system. It's pretty fucking miserable. And what has stopped me from being able to work for the past several years is I've got a variety of emotional health issues, besides painting shit on the walls or posing an imminent danger to society. I'm pretty fucking crazy, and so it makes it hard to hold things down, or makes it hard to hold a job down.
Right.
But I'm trying to get back into it. I just got a job. I had to start at the bottom because I do have a criminal history. But got into school in the fall semester. So I'm trying to turn this around a little bit, but, all my medical care, I go to a psychologist, a couple of psychologists, I go to med management, I'm a pretty expensive patient, and, excuse me, getting a little caught up. I'm concerned, of course, about what my health coverage is going to be like. So I'm, after I received a letter from the DHHS saying that I was required to either get into school or get a job. So I'm not sure.
Is that right?
That's right. I'm not sure where this bill is, but I thought that it had already gone through, or this is already in place, or maybe this is something new or additional. But
it is. My understanding is it was a waiver. That the DHS, I'll look into this, but my understanding, and I believe there were two states, and I don't know if Maine was one of them, but the DHS was starting to offer waivers to states to allow states to impose work requirements onto Medicaid, and presumably, I guess DHS would be... I'm sorry?
I think Kentucky was one of those states.
Kentucky is definitely one of those states. I don't know what the second state was, and I didn't think it was Maine, but we'll look into that. But that's interesting. And did you follow up on that letter?
I have to take another look at it because after seeing that, this was in the Bangor Daily News on Friday, and after seeing that, I got to go look back at the letter and see if that's going to be something that's going to be in place later, or if this is an existing work requirement, or exactly what.
Huh.
But I remember when I got the letter, I went down to the local state-funded career center, and it was a pain in the ass trying to find a job, again, with a record and with not being out of work for 2 years. The only thing that was available to me was driving a truck overnight just above minimum wage. So, it's going to be difficult for a while, but...
and do you have primary responsibility for your daughter?
I do, yeah. My wife is on Social Security disability, so we get about $1,200 a month for my daughter, and for my wife, and we've been living off of that, barely. That's fucking difficult to do. Right. And I've tried to hold jobs and other responsibilities in the past, and that's been difficult. But I think I'm to the point now where I'm ready to move on. But that's besides the point. It's just this is pretty horrible what they're doing. Making people on Medicaid work that aren't already doing so, because, like you said, there are so many things, or like the interviewer said, interviewee said, that there are so many things that don't meet the requirements for state or federal requirements for disability,
Right.
but that are disabling. And so, that really rung true with me, because I'm sitting here right there in that very same position.
Well, hang in there. Good luck. I just I wish you the best, and I appreciate you telling the story. Your story.
Yeah, of course. I just want to make people know that it's real, that it's happening, and that there are not many people leeching off the system. I mean, I've observed that firsthand. I've seen the numbers secondhand, and the amount of people taking advantage of federal aid, food stamps, Medicaid, it's practically non-existent. You have a few assholes, of course, but
Right.
it's practically non-existent.
Everywhere. In any endeavor, in private corporations, in large institutions, in small institutions. It's, yes, humans are humans, and there's always a couple who are going to be a problem. But the idea that you would make so many suffer to make sure, or presumably attempt to, is just simply, it's ludicrous. But I appreciate the call.
And yeah, no, absolutely. And thanks for hearing me out.
Thanks,
and as
man.
always, great program.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the idea that these kind of work requirements are designed to help people in any way or to lift them out of poverty is just ridiculous. It's designed to coerce more people, as many as more than already are, to join the minimum wage job market so that workers have even less power than they did before. That's the only person that benefits. Well, not person, but it's capital.
And also the attempt to basically come up with more politically palatable restrictions and narrowing of Medicaid. Here's another. According to McClatchy, after allowing states to impose worker requirements on Medicaid enrollees, the Trump administration now pondering lifetime limits on adults' access to coverage. Now, this is the problem that we literally just got rid of in private health insurance under Obamacare. It would be a first for Medicaid. It would be a dramatic policy change that would recast government-subsidized health coverage as temporary assistance by placing a limit on the number of months adults have access to Medicaid benefits. So contemplate this for a moment, okay? You can go out and get a job, minimum wage, slightly higher than minimum wage, much higher than minimum wage, and have no health insurance. And even if you're eligible for Medicaid, if you've been on there for X amount of months, maybe it's 12 months, maybe it's 24, maybe it's 36, maybe it's 48, you need health insurance. It would be a massive breach in the nation's social safety net.
Yeah, people talked about death panels with Obamacare, but this is as close to a death panel as I've seen proposed.
Yep. According to this, there were waiver requests from Kentucky and Indiana to terminate Medicaid coverage for able-bodied enrollees, as defined by people who are not eligible for Social Security disability. Like our caller just said, and like we've heard in the past, takes, in some cases, 2 years to get on Social Security disability. They reject something like 60% of the applications. According to this, there are 5 states, Arizona, Kansas, Utah, Maine, and Wisconsin, seeking waivers from the Trump administration to impose lifetime Medicaid coverage limits. So as far as I can tell, in Maine, there is not a work requirement yet, but maybe that's in the offing.
This is one of the problems with means testing. Like maybe some people think that the means testing under Democrats was reasonable. I don't, but there's always going to be someone moving that line further and further until nobody has any benefits anymore.
Right. I mean, politically, it's much easier to narrow something that's means tested than going from something that's universal, not universal.